Have you ever wondered um, what being in your right mind looks like? You know, the promise of God is, sound mind. We believe Jesus is of sound mind. And I mean particularly in the context of how would a sound mind appear in an insane world? Now, I know that can be an unright way of considering it, because we are to consider these things not comparatively. It's not like, we try to, or we seek to, or we strive to, or after something that is set up as in contradiction. We are seeking what has always been, before there was contradiction, before there was other that might speak against it or speak contrary to it. We're after he who was from the beginning, before anything had anything else to say about he who is from the beginning. But anyway, have you ever wondered, what would a man in his right mind, man's sound mind, look like to a world that's insane, if any have been granted to understand according to those terms? I can be judged for saying that the world is insane. God knows. But I have a persuasion about the world and its ways, its motives, its desires, lusts, acquisitions, and acquisitioning. So what would a man with a sound mind look like to somebody, or the whole of a world that's after all these things that are vain, perishable, useless, unnecessary, grievous, damaging? Well, it's probably going to look pretty crazy to that. And Paul understood how that a man who was to all else appearing beside himself as to the Lord, out of his mind for the Lord, could be hard to take. Writing, if we be beside ourselves, it is to the Lord. If we be in our right minds, it is for your sake. So there's a concession. There's a toning down, if you will. There's a grace found to restrain, so as not to put it mildly or bluntly, blow other people's minds too much, so that we can relate even. There's a usefulness to it. There is. Because there always has to be some common ground to relate. And for the man who is out of his mind for the Lord, there is a very real impetus to find that common ground, that he be able to relate. He knows the Lord as salvation. He knows the Lord as the giver of mercy. He knows the Lord as the kind one, the loving one. And so there's always, as much as there is a liberty, there is a discipline. And the believer learns that. It doesn't mean there's a damper on his liberty. It does not mean somebody is trying to inhibit his liberty. It is a grace he receives to enforce it upon himself, if you will. And Jesus touches on this. Same principle, same thing. When they come to him, Master, do your disciples pay the temple tax? And what does he say? He says, of whom do the kings of the earth require or demand tribute? Of their children or of strangers? And the response given to Jesus was of strangers. Then, he says, are the children free? Well, obviously, a king doesn't come down into the first floor where his kids' bedrooms are and says, hey, you kids, get your tribute ready. No, they're family. They don't owe him tribute. But everyone outside does. So the children are free. Now, who is your father? Who is the King of the universe, of all things? And do you know him as Father? Then are the children free. But Jesus goes on to say, nevertheless, for the sake of not being an offense, in other words, nevertheless, go down to the river, catch that fish, open its mouth, you'll find coins in there for you and me to pay the tax. So we pay this tax, we behave in a way that looks like, to everyone but God, like we're forced to be obedient to the ways of the world. We pay the tax because we have to. No, our Father is King of the universe. We are free. But it is for the sake of those who think they have authority in the world that we pay this tax, that we not be an offense for the sake of the gospel. For the sake of the gospel and the name and the glory of the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. And to as many who can receive this grace, it is given. And again, it is no one able to, seeking to, trying to inhibit any man's liberty. Every man is absolutely free to speak, at least once in this world, act in this world, behave in this world, according to the liberty that God gives in Jesus Christ, without care, concern, or any law that's able to speak against it. But the royal law of love is what tempers the believer, if there be any tempering, always and only. And that in itself is an offense to the natural man, because he likes to think he has authority to demand. He has authority to exact. He doesn't like to be told, I'm doing this for your sake. You think you have the authority over me to get it out of me. Just as when before Pilate, Jesus answered. Pilate was going to boast, and did. Don't you know I have authority over you? I can kill you or let you go? Jesus was doing Pilate a favor there. Jesus was instructing Pilate in the fundamentals of the reality of all things. You would have no authority over me except it be given you of my Father. Jesus was being kind to Pilate in that rebuke, rebuff, or reproval. And may we learn, when those things come our way, to take a beat and listen for the voice of God. Be well, brothers and sisters.